In most sports, the rules are enforced by referees making split-second decisions. But golf is different. It's the only major sport where players call penalties on themselves, and a rulebook the size of a small novel governs every aspect of play. This unique system has created some of the most controversial moments in sports history. Did you know a major championship was once decided because a player signed the wrong scorecard? Or that a text message from a TV viewer changed the outcome of a tournament? In this video, I'll break down the most controversial rule situations in golf history, the moments where a single decision changed championships, careers, and in some cases, the rules themselves. These aren't just obscure technicalities. They're the pivotal moments that show why golf's honor system can be both its greatest strength and its most glaring weakness. Roberto De Vicenzo's scorecard error. The 1968 Masters witnessed perhaps the most heartbreaking rules controversy in golf history. Argentina's Roberto De Vicenzo shot a final round 65 that should have tied him with Bob Golby, forcing a playoff. However, De Vicenzo's playing partner Tommy Aaron incorrectly marked a 4 instead of the birdie 3 that De Vicenzo actually made on the 17th hole. When De Vicenzo signed his scorecard without catching the error, the rules of golf were clear. The higher score had to stand. Instead of a playoff, Golby was declared the champion, and De Vicenzo was left with one of golf's most famous quotes, "What a stupid I am." Rule 6-6D stated that a player is responsible for the correctness of the score recorded for each hole on his scorecard. Once submitted, if the score for any hole is lower than actually taken, the player is disqualified. If the score is higher than actually taken, the higher score stands. This controversy led to significant changes in how professional tournaments handle scoring. Today, most major championships have scoring officials who review cards with players before they sign, and electronic scoring provides an additional safeguard against such errors. The incident also sparked debate about whether the punishment fit the crime. Many argued that a clerical error shouldn't determine a major championship, but traditionalists maintained that the integrity of the game required players to bear responsibility for their scorecards. Dustin Johnson's bunker confusion. The 2010 PGA Championship at Whistling Straits featured one of the most controversial rulings in major championship history. Dustin Johnson came to the 72nd hole tied for the lead. After pushing his drive right into a sandy area trampled by spectators, Johnson grounded his club before his approach shot, not realizing he was in one of the course's 1,000-plus bunkers. The resulting two-stroke penalty dropped Johnson from a tie for first into fifth place, costing him a spot in the playoff that Martin Kaymer eventually won. The controversy stemmed from the unusual nature of Whistling Straits, which features hundreds of small sandy areas throughout the course. Many of these bunkers were outside the ropes in areas where spectators had been walking all week, making them appear more like waste areas where grounding the club is permitted than traditional bunkers. Though notices in the locker room stated that all sandy areas were considered bunkers regardless of their condition, many felt the rule was unfairly applied given the unique circumstances. Johnson himself said he never considered the trampled sandy area to be a bunker. This controversy led to changes in how unusual course features are marked and communicated to players. It also influenced the 2019 rules revision, which now allows players to ground their club in penalty areas, formerly known as water hazards, and to remove loose impediments in bunkers. Craig Stadler's towel incident. At the 1987 San Diego Open, Craig Stadler created one of golf's strangest rules controversies. During the third round, Stadler's ball came to rest under a tree, forcing him to kneel to make the shot. To avoid grass stains on his light-colored pants, he placed a towel on the ground before kneeling. A television viewer called in, claiming this violated the rule against building a stance. Tournament officials agreed, and since Stadler had already signed his third-round scorecard without including the penalty, he was disqualified from the final round. Rule 13-3 prohibited building a stance by moving, bending, or breaking anything growing or fixed. Officials determined that placing the towel constituted building a stance by improving the area of his intended stance. The controversy highlighted the unique aspect of golf where viewers could effectively serve as rules officials. It also raised questions about the definition of building a stance and whether Stadler's action, which wasn't intended to improve his playing conditions but merely to keep his pants clean, should have been penalized. The ruling was so controversial that it eventually led to modifications in how the rule is interpreted. Today, players are allowed to use towels or rain gear to keep their clothes dry or clean, provided they don't deliberately build a stance to improve the conditions affecting their stroke. Tiger Woods' drop at the 2013 Masters. During the second round of the 2013 Masters, Tiger Tiger Woods' approach shot to the 15th green, hit the flagstick, and bounced back into the water. Woods took a drop 2 yards behind his original position, later stating in a post-round interview that he deliberately dropped slightly behind the original spot to create a better yardage. A television viewer alerted officials that Woods may have violated Rule 26-1, which required drops to be taken as nearly as possible to the original position. After review, officials assessed Woods a 2-stroke penalty rather than disqualification, using a recently adopted rule that allowed penalties to be assessed after a scorecard was signed if the player was unaware of the violation. This decision created significant controversy. Some argued Woods should have been disqualified for signing an incorrect scorecard, while others believed no penalty was warranted given the ambiguity of the drop rule. The Masters Competition Committee was criticized for not speaking with Woods before he signed his card, despite reviewing the drop during the round and initially deeming it legal. This controversy led to a clarification of the drop rule in the 2019 rules revision. Players now have a defined relief area, 1 club length from a reference point, rather than the more subjective as nearly as possible standard, reducing the potential for similar controversies. If you're finding these rule controversies fascinating, you're going to want to see what's coming next on this channel. I'm working on a deep dive into the most expensive golf mistakes ever made that cost players millions of dollars and change their careers forever. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now so you don't miss it when it drops. These are the moments that prove how costly a single decision can be in professional golf. Now let's get back to more rule controversies that changed the game. Lexi Thompson's viewer call-in penalty. The 2017 ANA Inspiration featured perhaps the most controversial viewer call-in in golf history. During the final round, Lexi Thompson was assessed a 4-stroke penalty for an incident that occurred in the 3rd round. 2 strokes for incorrectly replacing her ball on the 17th green, moving it approximately 1 inch from its original position, and 2 more for signing an incorrect scorecard. The violation was reported by a television viewer who emailed tournament officials. Thompson, who had been leading by 3 strokes, was informed of the penalty between the 12th and 13th holes of the final round. Despite the devastating news, she rallied to force a playoff, but ultimately lost to So-Yeon Ryu. The controversy centered on 3 issues: the timing of the penalty, nearly 24 hours after the incident, the role of television viewers in officiating, and the severity of the punishment relative to the infraction. Many players and fans felt it was unfair for Thompson to be penalized based on a viewer's email, especially for an infraction that was imperceptible to the naked eye and required high-definition, slow-motion replay to detect. This incident directly led to 2 significant rule changes. In December 2017, the USGA and R&A eliminated the penalty for signing an incorrect scorecard when the player was unaware of a violation. More importantly, they ended the practice of considering viewer call-ins for potential rules violations, instead assigning 1 or more officials to monitor video broadcasts to identify potential rules issues. Anna Nordfist's bunker graze. During a playoff at the 2016 U.S. Women's Open, Anna Nordfist was assessed a 2-stroke penalty when high-definition slow-motion replay showed her club barely grazing the sand in a bunker during her backswing on the 2nd playoff hole. The controversy wasn't about whether the violation occurred. It clearly did, as Rule 13-4 prohibited touching the sand in a bunker with the club before the stroke. Rather, the issue was the timing of the notification. Officials informed Nordqvist's opponent, Brittany Lang, of the penalty before she played her 3rd shot, giving her strategic information that Nordqvist didn't have when playing her approach. This created an inherent unfairness. Lang could play more conservatively knowing she had a 2-stroke advantage, while Nordqvist played her shot unaware of the penalty. The USGA was criticized for not waiting until both players had completed the hole before informing them of the ruling. This controversy, along with similar incidents, influenced the 2019 rules revision that now allows players to touch or move loose impediments in bunkers and to touch the sand with the club in areas away from the ball. Phil Mickelson's moving ball incident. The 2018 U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills witnessed one of the most bizarre rules controversies when Phil Mickelson deliberately hit his moving ball on the 13th green to prevent it from rolling off the putting surface. Rather than wait for the ball to stop, potentially ending up in a worse position, Mickelson jogged after it and hit it while it was still moving. He was assessed a 2-stroke penalty under Rule 14-5, now Rule 11.1, but many argued he should have been disqualified for a serious breach of etiquette. The controversy centered on whether Mickelson had violated Rule 1-2, which prohibited a player from taking an action with the intent to influence the movement of a ball in play. A violation with a significant advantage could result in disqualification. USGA officials determined that the specific rule for hitting a moving ball, Rule 14-5, took precedence over the more general Rule 1-2. Mickelson later admitted he had used the rules strategically, saying, "Yeah, I've wanted to do that many times before and finally did." This candid admission further inflamed the controversy, with many feeling it violated the spirit of the game, even if it technically adhered to the letter of the law. The incident influenced the 2019 rules revision, which now includes a specific provision for serious misconduct that can result in disqualification for actions contrary to the spirit of the game, even if not specifically covered by other rules. These controversies reveal the unique challenge of golf's rule system. Unlike other sports where officials make real-time decisions, golf relies on a combination of player integrity, official oversight, and a complex rulebook that attempts to cover every possible situation. When the system works, it reinforces golf's reputation as a game of honor. When it fails, as in these controversial moments, it exposes the tension between strict adherence to rules and the broader principles of fairness and common sense. The evolution of golf's rules in response to these controversies shows the sport's ability to adapt while maintaining its core values. From eliminating viewer call-ins to simplifying drop procedures, these changes aim to make the rules more fair, consistent, and understandable. Perhaps the most important lesson from these controversies is that no rulebook, no matter how comprehensive, can anticipate every situation. The human element, judgment, integrity, and sportsmanship remains essential to golf's identity as a self-governing sport.